So what we've done, I think, is awaken a beast, a very serious beast that we grossly underestimated from the beginning. We don't understand that one of the reasons Russian forces have moved so deliberately was not just because they wanted to avoid unnecessary casualties. They never really wanted to go any further than they had to liberate the Russians. Secondly, they don't want to rule or govern or control Ukrainians. They're not fools. They want the Ukrainians to govern themselves. They simply want the place to be neutral and not a threat to Russia, which we have obviously fought against almost from the very beginning, stupidly.
Colonel Douglas MacGregor, a respected military strategist, has long warned of the dangers of underestimating Russia's defensive capabilities. As tensions escalate on the Eastern Front, his analysis becomes ever more relevant. Ukraine's military moves near the Russian border demand closer scrutiny. We are witnessing a turning point where the stakes stretch far beyond territorial disputes. From the buildup of troops in the Sumy and Kursk regions to the psychological warfare playing out on political stages, this conflict is rapidly evolving into something far more complex. The Ukrainian military is not only seeking to pressure the borders, but also aims to keep Russia on edge, forcing them to split their attention and resources across multiple fronts. The very real possibility of clashes in these regions could redefine the boundaries of modern warfare and alter the geopolitical landscape across Europe. Today, we will dissect the strategic maneuvers, the battlefield conditions, and the broader implications of what is at play here. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has pointed out the importance of geography and warfare, particularly in regions like Sumy and Kursk, where high ground and strategic access points can make or break an operation. Ukraine's troop buildup along these borders signals a calculated move. This isn't just about territorial gains, it's about creating leverage and psychological pressure. By massing forces here, Ukraine is positioning itself to strike at the heart of Russia's defenses. But is this a genuine offensive or a strategic decoy? The region of Sumy is critical due to its geography, providing high ground and strategic points of access into Russian territory. For Ukraine, holding this position allows them to exert pressure on Russia's defensive lines in Kursk, forcing the Russian military to divert its attention from more crucial fronts. Yet, the political implications of attacking Bryansk remain a different matter. Belarus's involvement in the conflict cannot be ignored. With its troops stationed along the border and playing a defensive role, Belarus adds an additional layer of complexity. Belarusian forces might not initiate an attack, but they serve as a deterrent to any Ukrainian offensive. However, the possibility of Russian forces disguising themselves as Belarusian troops to carry out covert operations is a tactic that cannot be dismissed. This creates a murky situation where NATO's response becomes uncertain. Would NATO intervene if Belarus appeared to be the aggressor, even though it was actually Russia behind the attacks? This uncertainty could paralyze NATO's decision-making process and give Russia a strategic advantage. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has often emphasized that controlling key corridors in a conflict can be the difference between victory and defeat. The Rilsk-Kursk corridor has long been considered a critical linchpin in the defense of Western Russia. For Ukraine, seizing control of this area would not only disrupt Russian supply lines, but also give them a significant psychological victory. Yet such an operation would require a coordinated and sustained effort. Is Ukraine up to the task? The terrain in this corridor offers both challenges and opportunities. On one hand, it provides natural choke points that could be used to stall advancing Russian forces. On the other hand, it leaves Ukrainian troops vulnerable to flanking maneuvers. Ukraine's ability to control this area would hinge on securing key infrastructure points, such as the Kurchdov nuclear plant, and establishing a defensive perimeter that could withstand Russian counterattacks. However, this is where long-term goals collide with immediate realities. The dream of capturing Kursk, while appealing from a strategic perspective, may be far beyond Ukraine's current capabilities. What is more achievable in the short term is the consolidation of positions in the Rilsk and Sudzha areas. Here, Ukraine can create a defensible line that would allow them to exert continuous pressure on Russian forces while keeping their own casualties to a minimum. As we move forward, we must consider the practical short and medium-term goals that Ukraine might pursue on the battlefield. Colonel Douglas MacGregor's observations about the importance of timing in military campaigns are particularly relevant here. On the ground, Ukraine's immediate goals are far more modest than the grand strategy of capturing Kursk. Securing control of the valleys in Rilsk and Sudzha would not only provide tactical advantages, but also allow Ukraine to consolidate its positions and prepare for future operations. These areas, while small in comparison to Kursk, hold significant value. The Suja Valley, in particular, offers natural cover and a defensible position that could serve as a staging ground for further incursions into Russian territory. By securing these positions, Ukraine can maintain a constant threat to Russia's southern border while minimizing its own exposure to counterattacks. In the medium term, Ukraine might aim to establish control over the Kornevo-Glushkovo-Suja triangle. This region, while not as strategically vital as Kursk, would provide Ukraine with a foothold in Russian territory and disrupt Russian supply lines. Even if Ukraine cannot push further into Russian territory, holding these positions would force Russia to commit more resources to defending its borders, thereby weakening its presence on other fronts. But how will Russia respond to these Ukrainian advances? Let's turn our attention to Moscow's strategic calculations. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has repeatedly highlighted the significance of Russia's historical resilience in defensive warfare. Russia's response to these developments will likely focus on strengthening its defensive positions and preparing for a long, drawn-out conflict. Historically, Russia has excelled in defensive warfare, and its current strategy appears to be no different. The lessons of past conflicts, whether against Napoleon or Hitler, remain relevant today. The Russian military is likely to adopt a strategy of attrition, using its vast resources to wear down Ukrainian forces over time. This is not a war of quick victories, but of gradual, incremental gains. Russia will likely fortify its positions in Kursk and Belgorod, using the natural terrain to their advantage and employing a combination of conventional forces and irregular tactics to repel Ukrainian advances. At the same time, political and military analysts in Moscow, such as Vladislav Shurin, are pushing for a shift towards total war. This would involve mobilizing all of Russia's resources for a full-scale offensive. However, this strategy carries significant risks. While Russia may have the upper hand in terms of manpower and equipment, the economic and social costs of a total war effort could be devastating. The question is whether Russia can achieve its objectives without overextending itself and risking internal instability. As we consider Russia's strategic response, it's important to look ahead to the broader geopolitical implications of this conflict. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has warned that this conflict could set a dangerous precedent for future wars if not handled carefully. The events unfolding in Kursk and its surrounding regions could have far-reaching implications for the future of the conflict and the broader geopolitical landscape. If Ukraine can maintain its momentum, it could force Russia into a prolonged conflict that strains its resources and weakens its position on the world stage. However, if Russia can leverage its defensive strengths and outlast Ukraine, it could solidify its control over key regions and emerge from the conflict in a stronger position. The involvement of Belarus further complicates the situation. While Belarus remains officially neutral, its close ties to Russia and its strategic position make it a potential flashpoint. Any Ukrainian attack on Belarusian territory could trigger a wider conflict, drawing in NATO and escalating the war to a new level. At the same time, Russia's ability to use Belarusian forces as a proxy allows it to keep NATO at bay while continuing its operations in Ukraine. And with that, we bring our analysis to a close. Stay tuned for more updates as this critical conflict continues to unfold. In conclusion, as Colonel Douglas MacGregor has frequently stated, wars are rarely won by quick victories but by the careful calculation of strategy and resilience. The battle for Kursk and its surrounding regions is far from over. As Ukraine and Russia continue to maneuver for position, the outcome of this conflict remains uncertain. Will Kursk become a symbol of Ukrainian resistance, or will it fall under Russian control, becoming another chapter in this protracted war? The stakes are incredibly high, and the consequences of this conflict will be felt far beyond the borders of Ukraine and Russia. As the situation continues to evolve, it is clear that the decisions made in the coming weeks will have a profound impact on the future of the region and the world. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and stay informed on the latest developments in this conflict. Until next time, this is your host, signing off.